Welcome to the special broadcast from the Hasso Plattner D School at the University of Cape Town, where a conference is taking place on the circular economy. Our special guest today is Jasmina de Vink from Close the Gap. How do you see the circular economy in your particular field of expertise?
Sure. So circular economy is basically looking at the things that we use as humans and basically looking at how can we find ways where the waste, the outcome after use can actually be fed back into how we use things, and actually looking at the things that we have in our lives but designing them to be like circles in a way that can be from an ecological standpoint, but also even from a social impact standpoint.
So how do you understand what we call the digital divide in terms of what you are doing?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the digital kind of transformation in our world has been massive and has been very quick, and has also been very important to the economy. You know, today, if you want to have a job, you have to have a certain set of digital skills. So many jobs work with computers and everything like that. But there's actually a large group of people that in their education and in their growing up, they're not actually exposed to or don't have access to, what we call digital assets. Simply said, that's like a laptop or a computer. And so they can't develop those skills, and they actually miss out on opportunities in life. And that's what we call the digital divide. And so as Close the Gap, that's really where we try to play a role. And by making the usage of IT circular, how can we include more people into having access to a computer?
So how do you operate in your organization in bridging and in closing the gap, this digital gap?
Absolutely. So we basically work together with companies, governments, and we basically go to them and ask them the question, look, when you have used your laptops, when you've used your computers, what do you do with it practically? What can you do with it? And then we basically take them off them. They donate them to us. We put them through a process of data wiping, refurbishment, making sure they are ready to have a second life. And then we work together with a number of wonderful projects, education projects, or young entrepreneurs that normally would not have access to those, a laptop or a computer or anything. And then we basically put them to good use to have an impact.
So what are the digital needs of people that you deal with?
Well, for example, in South Africa, the digital divide is very big. You know, you have a lot of people that don't have access to internet, that don't have access to computers. You have a lot of schools that don't even have a computer lab where students can explore and students can kind of learn what it is like to work with a laptop. And that's really where we want to come in and make a difference.
In what sphere do you operate in terms of Close the Gap?
Yeah, we actually really operate in the hardware space, so in the very physical space. So for us, our story of digital inclusion starts with the physical thing, with the actual device. So we are trying to work together with companies, and we work on providing them with the physical device, and then actually finding the right partners that can provide the education, that can help young people use those devices for economic empowerment and all those kind of things.
So what are the joys of what you are doing?
The joy is that we see that what we do is kind of the beginning of something more. So, you know, when we put a device in a young person's hand, or when we equip a school with a computer lab, to see the downstream impact of that is really amazing. For some young people, it means they can now start a business. They've got access to the internet. They can start selling something online. They have access to a new market. Or for school, it means that they can, when their students matriculate, they can actually, move into the workspace where they can use a computer and they're more employable. So really, the kind of the availability of the device is just the start. But it's so beautiful to then see how that has an impact on those people's lives.
Is digital the new literacy in the 21st century?
I would absolutely say yes. I mean, if you can imagine how many times a day do we interact with anything digital, from from buying stuff online, from doing our jobs, communication with emails. There's so many touch points that we have with digital that you can imagine if you take away the access to our devices, our phones, our laptops, we actually miss out on a big part of what's happening in our society. And that's only going to increase, we believe. So that's why we find it so important to provide that opportunity to participate in that for as many people as possible.
So, Jasmina, how do you see the way forward in your organization?
It's partially about kind of geographical expansion for us. So we work in a number of hubs across Africa, but we really believe there's still places that are, that are in need of that digital access. So that's definitely one of those. Secondly, I think making our story more and more known in the corporate world. I mean, I think it's so important that companies actually know that they can do something amazing with what to them is just an old device. It's just, a device that has served its purpose, that doesn't really have much value. And actually getting to connect with those companies, telling our story of how they can actually decrease their ecological impact. They're saving massively on even CO2 emissions and everything like that by giving that device a second life. But then also the social impact of what that particular device can go on and do in the lives of others. And so basically setting up those powerful partnerships is something that we're really on a mission to do.
And of course, we have been broadcasting from the Hasso Plattner D School at the University of Cape Town, where a conference is taking place on the circular economy. Our guest for this part of the show was Jasmina de Vink from Close the Gap.